This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and as always, before I get started today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, if you haven't already, which I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't, but if you haven't, if you could, just make sure you subscribe to the podcast, make sure you're always on top of when we drop stuff, make sure you never miss an episode. If you could also, please give us a nice 5-star rating and write us a good review. It'd be very appreciated. Help us see where we can improve, help see what you guys like, don't like, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're also on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Like I said, wherever you are, we can discuss things, we can debate things, we can do all the fun social media stuff. So that's great, and you can find us there. So it is almost that time, people, and by that time I mean it is almost Super Bowl Sunday. And it's weird because it kind of doesn't feel like it's Super Bowl week as much as, like, unfortunately, due to the passing of Kobe Bryant, as we've talked about on this podcast, that has taken up a lot of the news cycle, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a very important figure in all of sports. But because of that, it feels as if the Super Bowl is kind of taking a back seat a little bit, and that may be a blessing in disguise. I mean, normally when you have 2 weeks in between, like I said, the championship weekend and the Super Bowl, by then you're already tired out of all the storylines, you're tired out of all the stats being thrown at you, all the different predictions, all the different interviews, media stuff, blah, 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 all that stuff that comes with the 2 weeks between games. And I feel like that hasn't been the case in this one, just because, like I said, other things have dominated the news cycle, for better or worse. And that has allowed us to not to grow tired of it. I know personally, I am still very much looking forward to. I'm not Super Bowled out. I'm not drained with all the different sports commentary and analysis going back and forth. So when I come Sunday, I'm still going to be looking forward to the game, as opposed to just being like, can we please get this over with, kind of thing, which I feel like you can run into sometimes if there's nothing else really going on. You're just like having to sit through and debate and watch different debate shows where you just have different people come on, say different things, or say the same things in different ways for 2 whole weeks. It can get tiring. Because other things have happened, that has allowed us to, at least allowed me. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I haven't grown fatigued with the Super Bowl yet, and that's great in my opinion, because I feel like on paper we have a potential classic matchup between two teams that have strengths and weaknesses, and I feel like each of them that they can exploit against each other, And I'm going to get started on the Niners side of things, talking about how they can attack or defend the Chiefs, and then I'll switch over to the Chiefs side after the break. But on the Niners side, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, all you got to do is do what got them there. I mean, but in theory, you want to stick with your plan, stick with what you've done all season, what you're great at. Now is not the time, you would think, to be like, oh, let's see if Garoppolo can go throw for throw with Mahomes. Let's try to show people like, hey, he's not just a game manager. He can throw 40 times a game. Blah blah blah. That's not what this game is for. This game is to win. Like, again, long story short, you're trying to win. It's a 1-game Super Bowl. You win, Super Bowl champions. Your name is etched in history for the rest of time. So now's not the time to, like I said, deviate from what you do well. And obviously what the Niners do well is run the football. And that's just kind of been their MO all season. That's again, what's gotten them here. I mean, the last 2 games in the playoffs, they've gone for 180 yards on the ground back-to-back. Obviously, in the championship game, Raheem Mostert had himself a day. 29 carries, 220 yards, 4 touchdowns. For, so what was that, like a 7.5 yard per carry clip, I believe, somewhere around there. So that's the kind of thing where that's like I said, that's what the Niners do. They were second in rush attempts this season, second in rushing yards per game this season. So, like I said, this is what they've been doing. They've been able to do this to just about everybody that they've come up against. And I don't think this week should be any different. I mean, the Chiefs during the regular season weren't a good run defense. Now, they've been a little better in the playoffs. Some of that has been helped by the fact that they've had big leads in 2 of their playoff games, so you're not really having to worry about the run as much. But yeah, they've given up only on average 90 yards per game in their 2 playoff games, which isn't necessarily that bad. And obviously they were able to contain Derrick Henry in the last game to a degree, but obviously a lot of that was due to the fact that the Chiefs were able to storm ahead after being down early, and then they forced Tannehill to have to throw it against them, and that just didn't really work. So the Titans weren't able to keep it as close as they would have liked, and that would allow them to run the ball more, all that fun stuff. But also, the running style that they had to defend in their last game is much different than the one they're going to be facing in this game. And like the way I look at the Titans' run game, it's like run Derrick Henry right, run Derrick Henry left, hope people get tired of tackling him, and usually they do, and then boom, he's breaking off big runs in the second half. I mean, they showed the stats, and they talk about stats all season where he's not much better, but he's better in the second half than he was in the first half, because eventually tackling him, I would imagine, is like is running into a brick wall repeatedly, though, I mean, that's kind of what football feels like to a degree, but for him, it's even more so. And after about a quarter, maybe a half, you're like just over. You're like, why would I want to do this to myself? Some people like don't go tackle him as hard, or they go in with the shoulder, dive at his legs, something like that. And then obviously he's able to break those things. He's a big, strong guy, and then that's how he breaks off those long runs in the second half. So then it's just like small nick, and then you got a big gash in there, and then small nick, big gash. In terms of like the way that his runs go, maybe you go 3 yards here, 4 yards here, 5 yards there, then like later, all to set up for the 60-yard run later in the game. But the way the Niners run is a little bit different, because they just try to gash you whenever they can. Like I said, in the NFC Championship game, Mostert ran for, it was 77.6 yards per carry. On the season, he's averaging about 5.6 yards per carry. So yeah, just like they like to get their people in space. They are very diverse and very creative with their run game. Bring guys in motion, throwing tosses, jet sweeps, reverses, all kind of different stuff to get people confused, get people going in different directions. And then when you think you already know where the ball's going, comes back a different direction, or comes out a different way or a different hole, and you're stuck out of position. And then plus the one big thing is, and that's been discussed a little bit, and I've seen in these 2 weeks leading up, is that they like to have everyone block, which is important. Like their receivers got to block. Obviously, George Kittle's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. They're one of the few teams that still utilizes a fullback with Kyle Juszczyk. So they always due to the fact that everybody has to block, then that creates, then that willingness to block creates more holes for their running backs. And obviously, like I said, when they get through them, they hit him hard. I mean, I believe Next Gen Stats said these are the 2 fastest teams in the league in terms of their average ball carrier miles per hour throughout the season. Yeah, I know they were the 2. I'm trying to figure out who was the fastest. I can't. I had the screenshot. I can't find it right now. But regardless, these are the 2 fastest teams in the league. So, and they utilize them in different ways. Obviously, the Chiefs are more of a track team with their receivers, and these guys are a lot of speed at the running back position, so they're going to try to get, like I said, try to get their guys out on the edge, try to get them wide gaps they can run through, and then by the time you're even touching them, they're already like 5-10 yards down the field before anybody even lays a finger on them. I know in the Packers game, there were at least a couple of touchdowns that Mostert had where I don't think anybody touched him before he got in the end zone, basically. And like I said, that's the way of scheming up, that's the way to design it, that's the way they block it. And that's going to be the key for them, because if they continue to do that, then they don't have to force Jimmy G to do everything for them. Now, is he capable of doing everything for them? Yes, technically, I believe he has 7 games this season where he's thrown for over 250 yards, and the Packers, not the Packers. The Packers wish they were in this game. The Niners are 7-0 in those games, and obviously the biggest one was going down into the Dome against New Orleans and putting up, I believe it was 48 points on them? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 48. I just want to double check for you guys. Yeah, it was, 48 points on them in the Dome. Jimmy G was great that day, threw for 350, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, but again, so like he's shown he can go and if you need to put the game on his back, he can carry it, but obviously that's not what they've needed him to do so far in the playoffs, but it's not something they're incapable of doing. So if you can establish that run, get that play action game going, it'll make things easier for Jimmy to not pressing out there. And the biggest thing for them and for him is just getting the ball to his playmakers, because I believe he Jimmy G led the NFL in percentage of yardage that came after the catch. So, like I said, they're not asking him to get too many big time throws down the field or make too many tight window throws. Obviously, it's the NFL, so everyone has to make tight window throws. But they're asking to scheming guys open early, and making sure Jimmy is on time, gets the ball out, gets it into their hands, and then lets them do the thing, because they're great after the catch, whether it's Deebo Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders, George Kittle, obviously they're running backs and screens out of the backfield. They have guys that are great with the ball in their hands, so then you want them to have the ball in their hands as much as you can. So then, like I said, they're not really, and I mean they have shown plays, and Jimmy has shown the ability to go down the field when he needs to. But like I said, they utilize their playmakers making plays after the catch. So I think that's what's going to be important for this one. And also, the other thing is the Chiefs' defense got to be ready quick, because I believe Jimmy G had the 7th quickest snap to throw. I think that's according to PFF. So like he was getting the ball out of his hands very fast. So like you said, this isn't like Mahomes, where like Mahomes will sometimes sit back there and hold the ball, wait for people to go around and all that stuff. But he's going to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Once he sees somebody open, he's going to get it to him and then let them work their magic. And also the big thing for the Niners is that the Chiefs on defense, I believe, were 29th in yards after catch allowed. So they gave up. So once guys got the ball in their hands, they gave up yardage to them, and then they weren't that good against running backs or tight ends this year. And then obviously the Niners have arguably the best tight end in the league in George Kittle, and he doesn't have to do too much in the playoffs, but that's just because they've been running the ball so great, and he's been doing great as a blocker. But this may be the game where he has a breakout, just because I'm not sure who on the Chiefs guards him. I mean, like Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu has been great this season, but he's just, in my opinion, he's too small for him. Sorensen's the other safety that they utilize sometimes. Daniel Sorensen's too slow, and then I don't think they have a linebacker that you can put on him. So I'm not sure what you do. Do you go with a big corner? And I'm like, he's too physical for him. So I think that'll be the key matchup: who they decide to put on Kittle. And I'm probably going to start with Honey Badger, but like I said, I just think Honey Badger's too small, and I don't think that would work personally. But we'll see what they decide to do. And then on the defensive side, I mean, their pass defense has been great. So this is going to be like a put up not a put up or shut up game, because they got to the Super Bowl, so they've done enough putting up. But they've talked about how Richard Sherman's talked about how they've been disrespected all year, how people don't talk about them enough. So this is the game to show people why we should have been talking about you more throughout the season, because you're going up against an elite offense with firepower all over the field at every level. So this is the game where you can show people that, hey, we're what we say we are. Basically, like they've been great all season, great against the pass, giving up the number 1 in passing yards allowed per game, first in yards per attempt, yards per completion, first in 20-plus yard passes down the field. So on every level, they're great against the pass. So if they continue to do that, and they contain Mahomes, I don't think you're necessarily going to completely, like, I don't think it's going to be like the Seahawks Broncos from like 5 or so years ago, where like the the Seahawks just dismantled the Broncos in the Super Bowl when like Peyton and the Broncos came in with like one of the best offenses we had ever seen in the history of the NFL, and there was just nothing. They just couldn't do anything against them. I don't think it's going to be like that because, like I said, the Chiefs have too much speed. But I think if their pass defense shows up the way it has all season, then they should at least be able to contain them and keep the score lower. Because not low, I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game, kind of like the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl from 2 years ago. Maybe not that high, but around that, where there's going to be points put up. It's not going to be like last year where it's 13-3 and it's basically 3-3 for most of the game. That's not going to happen. Or 6-3, I think it was, until they got the late touchdown there. But yeah, so it's not going to be like that, in my opinion. The Chiefs are going to put up points, now he's going to put up points. So if the Niners can contain Mahomes, keep everything in front of them, come up, rally, and tackle, and also when you can get pressure on them, because I believe their weak link of their offensive line is their left tackle, Fisher, and he's going up against Nick Bosa, who's been great all season. He was just named Pepsi Rookie of the Year, I think either yesterday or earlier today. We'll see if he gets the award at the NFL Honor Show on Saturday. But yeah, they've been great. They've been great pass rushing. You usually don't have to blitz that much, so you're dropping extra guys into coverage, which is ideal because then it's like again more people to defend the Chiefs. Like I said, if their pass rush can do what it has done all season and get to the quarterback, then they can make Mahomes at least and the Chiefs struggle a little bit. So, I mean, that and obviously third downs will be key because I think the Chiefs, which I'll talk about in a second, have one of the best third down offenses. So their third down defense has been pretty good this year. So gotta see what gives there. See who holds up. But yeah, if the Niners can run the ball well, not ask Jimmy G to do too much because, like I said, he's capable of doing it, but you don't want him to do a whole lot. And their defense is who they say they are. Then I think the Niners have a very, very, very good shot of winning this game. And after this next break, where after I talk about the Chiefs side of things, I will tell you who I have winning. But like I said, I'm going to take a quick break here and talk about, and then after that we'll talk about the Chiefs side of things. So we'll be right back. Well, I'll be right back. You know what I mean.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
From the Chiefs' perspective, what do they need to do to win? Well, for starters, as I talked about in the last segment, where the Niners are going to want to run the ball out, they have to do their best to stop the run. Because if the Niners are just gashing them for 5-6 yards or 5-6 yards a clip, it's going to be a long day for the Chiefs. And not even just the Mahomes is going to be on the sideline a lot, that kind of long. It's just going to be they're going to be putting up points every time they get the ball. And the Chiefs are going to be looking at each other, wondering, scratching their heads, what do we do? Going to try to come up with different schemes, different adjustments, and then they're just going to be so confused and nothing's really going to work. So that's kind of the fear. If you're a Chiefs fan, is what you're a little worried about. Like I said, the Chiefs' run defense has been better in the playoffs, but it wasn't that great during the season. So you hope the playoffs defense continue to show up. We hope that the 2 weeks off didn't give Shanahan too much time to scheme some things up on the offensive side of the ball and different run schemes and different ways that they can attack that Chiefs run defense. But if the Chiefs are able to contain that, then I think that's probably their best case scenario, because in my opinion, for them, you want to make Jimmy G beat you with his arm. Just because, like I said, like that's the lesser of their offense. I mean, he hasn't really had to do too much this postseason, and I've had discussion with people, and I've said this: I don't care how good they're running the ball. If the Niners had Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, they're not having him throw only 8 times in the last game, and I think he's only thrown 27 times, or no, it might have been 9. But yeah, he's only thrown the ball 27 times in the playoffs. I don't care how good they were running the ball against the Packers. Mahomes is throwing more times than that. I promise you. Yeah, it was 8 times. Yeah, Mahomes is throwing more times than that. You can't convince me otherwise that if Kyle Shanahan had Patrick Mahomes, they would have only ran the ball. I mean, they would have only thrown the ball 8 times. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care how good Moser was. So that's my point, is that you want to put this game squarely on his shoulders. Now, is that a guarantee you're going to win? No, not at all, because as I said, he's done pretty well when they needed him to do that. But the key could be the fact that Jimmy G will turn the ball over from time to time. He had 13 interceptions on the year in the regular season. He's thrown a pick in the postseason in the Vikings games, and that was kind of the start of the trend of like, hey, we're just not going to have you throw the ball that much. He threw that pick right before the half, and obviously the Vikings weren't able to capitalize on it completely, because I think they only kicked a field goal after that to cut it to 14-10 and what could have been 14-14. And that changes the whole dynamic of the second half. But yeah, ever since then, the Niners really haven't asked him to throw the ball. So I think that's their best case scenario. And then the Chiefs' pass defense has been very good this year. They're 5th in passer rating, 8th in yards per game, 10th in touchdowns allowed, and the biggest thing, they were tied for 5th with 16 interceptions on the season during the regular season. So they're a team that will take the ball if you want to give it to them, and Jimmy G has shown that he will give it to you from time to time. Like I said, he has his games where he's near flawless, but there are times where he's kept teams around in games because of his, whether it's inaccurate throws or just, like I said, just his turnovers. So that'd be the biggest thing, because like I said, because if you're having trouble stopping the run, you need to find ways to get off the field. And the easiest way to get off the field is create a turnover. Then, boom, you're giving Mahomes more possessions, and more possessions is a recipe for disaster for the Niners. Because, like I said, the more times Mahomes has the ball, the more chance he has to score. And the more chance he has to score, the more likely it is that you lose. So, I think that's probably the biggest key. I mean, stopping the run is the first biggest key for the Chiefs, but if they aren't able to do that, then finding ways to create turnovers, especially against Jimmy G, when he's putting the ball up through the air, that will be essential, because you need to find a way, one way or another, to get off the field against the Niners offense. And like I said, they've been pretty good through the air, so they just need to find a way to make the Niners one-dimensional. I mean, that's easier said than done. That's what every coach ever would say, like, oh, stop this, and make every defensive coach ever would want to face an offense as one-dimensional, because, again, it's easier to game plan for, easier to strategize for. So, as simple as that sounds, in terms of wanting to make Jimmy G beat you, it's not as easy as like I said, it's not as easy as it sounds. But that would be my plan if I was Steve Spagnuolo. And I mean, this guy he's been in a big game, he's beaten Tom Brady before, so I would like to think Jimmy G is not too much to handle. But also, that 07 Pats team did not have the run game and the diversity of run game that the Niners have. So, it'll be interesting to see how that goes out. And then, on the offensive side of things, well, also one last thing on defense is Frank Clark has been very good. I mean, he's a guy that talks a lot, but he's been backing it up in the last 4 games, including the regular season. He has 6 sacks. He's going to be going up against Mike McGlinchey, who's the weaker of their offensive tackles. I believe he's allowed 5 sacks a season, according to PFF. And it was an NFL YouTube video that I was watching. previewing the game, everybody said he gave up 5 sacks on the season, and that's the most on the Niners. So it'd be interesting to see if Frank Clark can win that matchup, because if he can, much like I said with the Nick Bosa and Fisher matchup on the other side, that could be the key in order to, like I said, getting sacks. Getting sacks is a killer for almost any drive, because then you're behind the chains. You're trying to change the way you call plays, changes the way you maybe attack the defense, because you can't risk getting sacked again, blah, 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 then field position, all that fun stuff. But yeah, so then that'll be interesting to see if Frank Clark can continue to deliver as he has been, this postseason. And also, this game, with the 2 weeks off, Chris Jones is healthier than he obviously played in the last game, but he's coming off injury. The 2 weeks off should help him, and that's big for them up the middle, get that pressure up the middle, because he was still getting pressure on Tannehill, even in limited snaps. But also, he'll be a key for the run game up the middle. I mean, they usually try to go on the outside, what the Niners do, but still, he could be a force in the run game as well, so that'll be interesting. And then flipping over to the offense side of things, I mean, you just need Mahomes to keep doing what he's been doing. I mean, he's a monster. He's been a monster. I don't believe he's thrown an interception in his postseason career so far. See if that holds up. But yeah, in this current postseason, he's 8 touchdowns, 0 picks. Had 5 touchdowns against the Texans, 3 in his past game. Plus, he's been utilizing his legs more, which is what really could be important, because over the course of the season, the Niners were not as good against mobile quarterbacks. And, I mean, Mahomes isn't exactly Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he threw 3 touchdowns in AFC Championship. I'm sorry to backtrack. I'm talking about Mahomes. 5 touchdowns against the Texans, 3 against the Titans, and plus the rushing touchdown. But yeah, so Mahomes has rushed for, I believe, 50 yards in each of the 2 playoff games. He's been that leading rusher in both playoff games, I'm pretty sure, too, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, over 53 yards exactly in both games. But yeah, so he's a guy that's been utilizing his legs more. Obviously, he's more healthy now, with the knee all healed up, the ankle all healed up. No, for the most part, obviously, I don't know how injured he is. I'm not a team doctor, nor do I see his medical report. So I don't know exactly how healthy he is, but he's obviously healthier than he was earlier in the season, and that could be key because he's moving around better. He's setting in plays, rushing for first downs, rushing for big yards. And like I said, they've struggled against rushing quarterbacks to a degree. The Niners have this season. I know Kyler Murray gave them some trouble. Ross obviously gave them some trouble. They struggled with Lamar a little bit in the game that they lost to the Ravens. So yeah, if Mahomes is able to escape the pocket when because there's going to be plays where the Niners just have good coverage on their guys, because they play the very sound defense that usually don't make too many mistakes. So if that's available, then Mahomes is going to have to run, and if he's able to do that, get those big yards, and that's going to be key in order to extend drives, get first downs, get them into the red zone, all that fun stuff. And I believe I'm 90% sure on this, but I don't think that the Chiefs have ever scored less than 30 points in Mahomes' playoff career, dating back to last season and this season. I don't think they've scored less than 30. Now, they haven't won every game. They were 3-1 coming into this game. So like I said, they're not undefeated, but they've been able to put up points. So that's what the Niners are going to have to try to stop, and that's what the Chiefs are going to be like, hey, if you can, great. If you can't, then we're going to put up 30 or 40 like we normally do. And as we talked about in the last segment with the speed, both these teams are fast, but I'm saying they're the type of speed that the Chiefs have is almost next level. I mean, you have Tyreek Hill, who's one of the fastest guys, if not the fastest guy in the league. McCole Hardman, who's right there, up there with him in terms of the fastest guys. Sammy Watkins, who ran the 4.4. Robinson, who can get open down the field, and that doesn't even include Damian Williams out of the backfield, who's pretty fast. And then, Kelsey's Kelsey. So they just have speed all over, and they also have the people much like the Niners, where if you can get the ball into their hands, get them in open space, and then just let them outrun people. Because there are many times you see Tyreek Hill get the ball and then just accelerate, and then the guys think they have an angle on him, and they just don't because he's just too fast. And that's what I'm saying. struggle to believe that the Niners had the speed in the secondary to keep up with this Chiefs offense. I honestly do. Now, like I said, they're a team that plays a lot of zone, so that makes things easier. They're not going to be doing too much man coverage. I mean, obviously, you can't play no man coverage in the NFL, but they're not going to try to do as much man coverage. They're going to force guys into zones, and the Chiefs and Mahomes is going to have to be willing to take what the defense gives them. And if they got to dink it down the field, they got to dink it down the field. Don't force those deep shots. And I think Mahomes has been good with that this season. He's been good with that this postseason. If there's a guy that they're willing to play zone against them, because most teams don't like to play man because they don't have the speed to do it, then yeah, he's gonna let Kelsey find the holes in the zone. He's gonna let Tyreek Hill find the holes in the zone, and just get them the ball. And then like what happens after that can happen after that, because again, they're great after the catch too in their own right. So, like I said, the Chiefs just can't get out of their zone too early. I mean, I don't remember the divisional round game last year, but I know in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, they started out slow. And obviously both games this year, they started out slow. And clearly they're capable of making up a big deficit in a hurry, so that's not something that they're too worried about. But from an outsider's perspective, that's something that you just don't want. You don't want to get behind the 8 ball early in a Super Bowl. Especially against a team like the Niners who, though they're like the Titans in terms of they want to run the ball, they can still put up points on you just as easily as the Chiefs can put up points on other teams. So then if you're behind early, behind double digits, behind 2 touchdowns early, again, I understand you can catch up, but then the Niners are going to keep scoring too, so it's going to be too hard to play catch up. Now you're forcing your defense to have to get back-to-back-to-back stops in order to give you a chance, and that's just not something you can assume is going to happen. So I would say it's imperative for the Chiefs to get off to a fast start in this game, just like I said. So not playing behind the 8 ball, and like I said, get your team into a rhythm early, get them going early. Because once Mahomes is settled in, he's basically lights out. So it would just be important for them on their side of things just to make sure that they don't start out slow. And if they don't, and they turn this into a track meet, I mean, you have to like the Chiefs track stars over the Niners track stars, if that's the case. I mean, their defensive coordinator, Niners, for Robert Saleh, basically said that they have an Olympic track team out there on the field on offense. So, if they want to turn this into a track meet, you can. And also the big thing will be like third down. I remember, like I said, the Chiefs are number 1 on third down on offense. The Niners are really good on third down on defense. Something's got to give there. And something's got to give in the passing game, because Mahomes is arguably the best quarterback in the league. The Niners have the best defense in passing, so something's got to give there. So we got to see how that goes. And honestly, I mean, I'm going to go with my head because I want Mahomes to win. I believe the Chiefs are probably going to win, but I just don't trust that defense. And then on the Niners side of things, I don't trust Jimmy G. Like, I don't want to say not at all because he got him to the championship game, but I'm saying if the Chiefs are able to stop the run, then I don't think Jimmy G can do it at this stage and on this level. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to stop the run. Kyle Shanahan has had too much time to design even more creative wrinkles to his run game. And like I said, the Chiefs haven't been a good run defense this year. Even though, like I said, they've been a little better, but they're still not a good run defense. So that's what worries me if I'm a Chiefs fan, is can we stop the run? Because unlike the Titans, their team is going to continue to put up points. They're not going to, or even the Texans, they're not going to get, I don't think, they're not going to get stuck at 17. They're not going to get stuck at 20, 23 points. They're going to keep, it's like, hey, once they get rolling, they're going to keep it going. They're going to be able to put up 30, potentially 40 points if the Chiefs don't have an answer for them on the defensive side of the ball. So I think, like I said, this game's going to be high scoring. I think this is going to be a very back and forth, entertaining game. I do think the Niners prevail, close, probably like a 3 points touchdown. I don't think it's like a last second field goal kind of thing, but I think they just end up winning and be able to get a stop there at the end in order to seal it off and let Richard Sherman have the post-game press conference or post-game interviews of all post-game interviews. That'll be a fun one if he does it. But like I said, my heart's telling me the Chiefs because I just don't, because in these scenarios you want to go with the best quarterback, and Mahomes is the best quarterback, so it's hard to pick against him. But it's less picking against him and more so just picking the Niners, and betting on Kyle Shanahan and that run game and that defense. Because I feel like there's more data to show that they've been more consistent over the year than the Chiefs defense has, even though it's been better of late. But I just think if I was going to put money on one defense in this game showing up, I believe it would be the Niners. I wouldn't be too shocked because, like I said, I still think they're going to give up points. Like, I'm not just going to have them pitching a shutout. Like, they don't have the speed on defense, I think, in order to keep up with Tyreek Hill and all those guys. But I think they'll do enough. They'll be able to get enough pressure. Then maybe make a play or two here or there in order to get the win. So I'll say the Niners probably get the job done. But like I said, I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's the Chiefs. And if it's the Chiefs, it's because Patrick Mahomes did what the best quarterbacks in the league do, and that's show out on the big stage. So we shall see what happens. So after this break, we're going to switch gears over to the NBA. The NBA All-Star teams were announced. Well, All-Star reserves were announced. I figured they got a lot of it right, but there were some names missing, and we got to talk about them. So we will discuss that right after this break.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to Extreme Cage Fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So the reserves, I'll start in the Western Conference, I should say. And the reserves for the Western Conference were named, were Donovan Mitchell, Dame Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Brandon Ingram, shout out to him, Rudy Gobert, and Jokic. So I think the biggest thing for me in terms of All-Star is, like, are we rewarding individuals for their play, or are we rewarding individuals for their team success? And I think that's kind of where it comes down to. Because in my opinion, All-Star is like, all right, it's a showcase of the best players for the world to see. And however you quantify best is up to you. But for my guy, I think the issue with a lot of that is, so they break it down into, as you know, they break it down into backcourt, frontcourt, and I think that's a part of the issue right there. Because guys like Rudy Gobert, again, is he a great player? Yes. Was he deserving of an All-Star nod? Also, yes. Because, like I said, he's averaging 16 and 15 plus 2 blocks. The Jazz are the 4th seed in the West. They're having a great season. But is Rudy Gobert's style of play really conducive to an All-Star game in terms of fan enjoyment? Not really. So it's like, what do we want? Because we saw with the fan voting, they just want to see their guys in there doing cool stuff. And Rudy Gobert is the kind of player that doesn't fit into that, but he also deserves an All-Star nod because he's having a good season. So that's kind of the issue. So, but then, and also just because of the fact that there's different positions, you don't want to leave guys out, which I get, but in my opinion, I just think it should be the 12 best. You should do away with the positions just like, hey, just say like the five best guys are the starters and everybody else is everybody else. Whether that means I don't like the fact that you have to be like, oh, we have to have this many forwards, or we have to have this many centers, or we have to have this many guards. It's like, hey, whoever the 12 best players are in that conference during that year, that's who we put in there. We shouldn't force ourselves or pigeonhole ourselves into being like I said, being forced to pick certain positions just because, like, oh, we need another center, or oh, we need another this, no, we need another that. Like, it's not an official game. Like, you're not building a team you're not building a team of the best 12 and how they fit together and how they fit on the court, blah, blah, blah. That's not what you're trying to see. You're going out there to see, be entertained, see cool plays, see the best players play with each other. And, and then that's why, so a position like him, because we got to make sure we have enough front court guys, that's how a guy like a Devin Booker, who's averaging, 27 and 6, I believe, on the year. I want to make sure I get the numbers right for you guys. But yeah, he's averaging like 27 and 6. He's shooting like 50% from the field, like 37 from 3, I think, something like that, and like 90 from the free throw line. Like, it's absurd. Season he's having, So he's having 27, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and shooting 51% from the field, 36.8 from 3, and 91% from the free throw line. On a team, and it's not his fault his team's bad. DeAndre Ayton was suspended for 25 games, I think. He has only played 17 games a season. So when your second best player misses more than half the season up to this point, you're basically playing out there by himself. And even with that, they're still, I think, 9th or 10th in the West. They're 11th in the West, but they're like 3.5 games back of the 8th seed. So it's like, I understand wanting to reward. So I honestly think so. I know I mentioned Gobert, but honestly, in my opinion, he could have taken Donovan Mitchell's spot. In all honesty, I know, like, again, this is where it comes down to, like, do you want the best players overall, or do you want the best players who also happen to have a good season? Because then when you go to the East, you'll see that having a good season didn't really matter as much, at least when you look at the starters. So, like, when, like, fans, like, just like, when do you pick and choose? Because if you look at Donovan Mitchell, again, his team's a lot better than the Suns, but I mean, he has a better team around him than Devin Booker does. So that's at least a part of the reason why. But he's averaging 25 points, so less points. He's averaging 25, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds. So less assists, about the same amount of rebounds. He's shooting worse from the field. He's shooting worse from the field at 46%. About the same from 3, and a little bit worse from the free throw line. So, I mean, Devin Booker is probably the only one that I have a major gripe with. I mean, honestly, you could argue the same thing for, like, a guy like Chris Paul, who's being rewarded for the fact that the Thunder weren't supposed to be that good, and he wasn't expected to do that much this year. So they're giving him, like, kind of like the OG vote in, like, obviously, like, a guy later in his career, still playing at a decent level, like, all right, we'll vote him in kind of thing. Because you would honestly give Devin Booker his spot. You could have given somebody like Ja Morant his spot. Like, it's like, it's like, are we rewarding the best players? Are we rewarding good players who have team success? Because that's what, in my opinion, that's not what All-Star games should be. It's a showcase of the best players in the league. And that shouldn't, like, the record should not really come to that. If you want to account record for, like, awards, like MVP, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man, that kind of stuff, Defensive Player of the Year, by all means, that's fine. For the awards, you can factor in record. But for just All-Star votes, you shouldn't. And I talked about this before. This is the kind of thing where that foolish fan voting hurts the players. Because, as we already discussed, Devin Booker was 8th in fan voting, but he was 4th in player and 4th in media. 8th in fan voting. I believe the 4th in fan voting for guards, that is, was Alex Caruso. So all those Alex Caruso votes that you knew weren't going to get, that when you knew he wasn't going to get, and I mean, what was it? Steph Curry was 6th in fan voting. He has played, 3 games. D'Angelo Russell was 10th. It's like there were guys that were getting votes for no reason. And, I mean, it's not necessarily their fault they're voting for their guy, so I get it. And maybe the Suns fans should have done a better job of voting for Devin Booker. But I'm saying, as fans of the sport, we shouldn't make a mockery of the voting system, is how I feel. Vote for guys that are actually going to be able to play in the game. don't vote for guys just for the fun of it. Like, no one... Alex Caruso was never making an All-Star game. Steph Curry was never going to make the All-Star game. Same with... D'Lo's been not hurt as much as Steph Curry, but he's been in that lineup too. Devin Booker's been there every night, giving Phoenix everything he can. Like I said, he's averaging 27 and 6 while shooting 50% from the field. And it's just absurd that he's not a legit All-Star, like, without having somebody have to get hurt. I mean, Doncic hurt his ankle, so we'll see how healthy he is for the All-Star game. Maybe he sits out, he can slide in there. Kawhi may be trying to load manage. He might not want to push himself All-Star weekend. So we'll see. There's a chance that Devin Booker could still make the team, but the fact that he isn't already on the team is a shame. And I just feel bad for him due to the fact that he's just being... his where he plays and where he was drafted is being held against him when it shouldn't be. That's not his fault. He can only control what he can control, and that's how well he plays. And he's playing exceptional. He's probably gonna, at the current pace, he's probably gonna be on one of the All NBA teams. Don't know which one, but he's gonna make one of the All NBA teams. And how he can make an All NBA team but not make the All Star game is kind of absurd to me. But again, that's why the fan voting is a sham. And then flipping over to the Eastern Conference side. We have I'm trying to find it, but we had I know Jimmy Butler made it, Adebayo made it, Jason Tatum made it. I'm trying to remember who else. Kyle Lowry, Chris Middleton, Ben Simmons, and Sabonis. I think is that 7? So wait, Kyle Lowry, Chris Middleton, Sabonis, Ben Simmons, Tatum. Bam and Jimmy. Yeah, that's 7. So yeah. So and obviously the big miss there was Bradley Beal, who again is being hurt due to his lack of team success, which again, and not his fault. But you could have, which is like it's hard because it's like, all right, so who do you take out? Because that's the way I was looking at these things, and I'm just like, do you take out Kyle Lowry? Yes and no. Because he's having a good year. He's at like 20-7, I believe. Regardless, the Raptors are second in the East, excuse me, and he's averaging like almost 20 and 7 assists plus like 4.5 rebounds. And Pascal, arguably the best player, has missed a good amount of time this year. He's only played in wow, they played in the same amount of games. I didn't even realize that. That's interesting. But yeah, he's missed some time. Like Pascal was out for a little bit, then Lowry was out, so then he's missed some time. But again, he's having a good year, and then the Raptors second in the East, so then they're going to give him the nod because of that. So again, the bad team is being held against them. Is being held against Beal, who himself, and he even talked about after the game how he thought it was disrespectful he didn't make it, and I could honestly agree with him. Because he's averaging 28.6 points and 6.3 assists and 4.4 steals while shooting 45. His 3-point percentage is atrocious. So if you want to knock him, that's what you would knock him. He's only shooting 31% from 3 and then 85% from the line. So he doesn't make it, averaging almost 29 points a game, which is absurd. I don't care how bad his team is. It's, again, not completely his fault that the rest of his team is sorry. But yeah, so he doesn't make it. Guys like Zach LaVine don't make it, who's averaging, I think, about 25 on a team that's in contention, technically, for the 8th seed. I mean, technically the Wizards are only 5 games back than the Nets, which shows how bad the bottom of the Eastern Conference has been this year. Though the bottom of the West hasn't been that much better. But yeah, LaVine's averaging 25 points a game. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 44% from the field, 38% from 3, 83% from the line. And again, is his team great? No. So that's why guys like Chris Middleton make it. And again, I'm not trying to say this as a knock on Chris Middleton. He's on the best team in the league. But he's only averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, about 4 assists. He's shooting 50. Oh, wow, he's shooting 50-40-90. Did not know that before I started this argument. All right, I see why Chris Middleton made it, but then it's tough because like again, you got to put Jimmy on there because he's playing well, and then that's the same thing with with the forward. I mean, with having, you can't just have a bunch of guards on the team. You got to add forwards and centers. So then Bam's got to be in there. He's having a great season. Sabonis is helped keep the Pacers afloat until Oladipo got back. And then Tatum's an interesting one because, I mean, many people argued that, or many people were saying that, honestly, you could put Jaylen Brown on over him. And I'm not too mad at that, but again, he's a forward, so different positions than Levine and Beal. So he's averaging, 21 and 7, 3 assists, shooting 43% from the field, 36% from 3, 84% from free throw line. But a bunch of these other guys are second, maybe third options on good teams, as opposed to guys like Beal are first options on really bad teams. And again, that's not his fault completely that it's a bad team, but he's doing his part. And if you average 29 points a game, I'm sorry, they got to find a way to put you on the All-Star team. If that means leaving a guy, Chris Middleton, out, all right, it's fine, in my opinion. Because again, this isn't best guys on the good teams. It's the best guys overall. So you can't just completely dismiss guys on bad teams in order to put guys on good teams, especially when Trae Young is a starter and he's on arguably the worst team in the league. And again, a lot of it has to do with the fan voting, and a lot has to do with the media. It helps them push these certain guys in order to get that fan vote up. Because he was the leading vote getter in the fans amongst guards, was second in the media and third in the player vote. And I understand why. I mean, he's having a great year. I'm not going to knock him. Like I'm saying, it can't just be him. He's really the only guy that's like a star that's representing a bad team. And I'm like, Trae Young isn't the only guy on a bad team having a great year. Like I said. So it was just unfortunate. For the most part, I feel like they got the teams right, but they hopefully they can find a way to get Beal and Booker on, because they got to. Like I'm saying, you got to give them something. They're playing their hearts out every night for teams and with guys that aren't nearly on their level, and that's holding them down because they were averaging those same numbers on teams, and their teams won like 5 more games, respectively. Then we'd be having different conversations. People would be looking at them differently. But because the team is sorry, they're not holding it against them. And I'm saying that's not what the All-Star game, in my opinion, should be about. It should just be a collection of the best players on the planet, in the NBA at least. And I don't feel like we're representing that correctly when you dismiss guys just because they're on a bad team. So we got to find a way to fix that. And obviously, I think the fan vote, making a mockery of the fan vote, is kind of an issue there, because I think Kyrie didn't make the All-Star game, which he shouldn't have. He missed so much time, but he was up there in fan voting. He was second in fan voting just because he's a popular player. Like, that doesn't make any sense. While Bradley Beal was 9th when he was having an exceptional year, he was second in player vote. Bradley Beal was 5th in media vote. So again, if the fans just didn't make a mockery of the voting process, he probably gets in. And that's what I'm saying. It's just unfortunate. Because really the biggest thing with the reserves, I think the reserves are picked by coaches or whoever, but the fan voting really messed up the starters, and that in turn messed up who the reserves are. Because you have different guys that were, Bradley Beal, people thought Bradley Beal could have been a starter, and now he's not even on the team. Like, that's kind of absurd to me. But because certain people are starters, because fans like certain players more than others, then that's weighted too heavily, and then now guys that should be on the team aren't making the team because now the coaches are picking guys from good teams, because you got to give the good teams you got to give them a bone here and there. But then now the guys on bad teams are missing out because they weren't high enough in the fan vote, and then their season's not good enough for the coaches to pick them. So, got to figure out something to do there. And speaking of changes, in terms of my opinion, they need to change the voting format. The NBA sent out some format changes for the All-Star game this year, including a little tribute to Kobe in there, which is not the tribute I discussed and would have been much simpler, but that's neither here nor is it there. So we'll discuss that new format change for this year's All-Star game right after this break.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, created by GSMC Podcast. So, if you haven't heard, the All-Star Game is trying out some new format changes this year. This is a test in the waters, trying to get the game to be a little bit more competitive, which, in my opinion, I don't hate the changing in order for the sake of competitiveness due to the fact that, actually, I'm not a big like, oh, I need to see defense in the All-Star Game. Like, I don't really care. It's not that serious. I'm not watching the All-Star Game and see guys play tight defense and be forced to shoot a bunch of contested jumpers all game. That's not what I'm there for. I don't mind seeing the alley-oops. I don't mind seeing the dunks. I don't mind seeing the threes. I don't mind seeing guys putting up big performances. It's just a show. It's a showcase game. It's not a legitimate game. It's a showcase game. But obviously, they want to make it more competitive. All that stuff. Again, I'm not trying to have guys playing too hard and then getting hurt in the All-Star Game. That's the last thing I think anybody wants, and that could be where we're heading if we have the guys playing too hard. But regardless, they made some changes. So the first change was that both NBA All-Star Game teams. This was sent out by the NBA office earlier today. So both NBA All-Star Game teams will play for Chicago-based charity organizations as selected by team captains Giannis and LeBron James. That I don't hate, but I don't love either, just because it's nice for the captains to be able to pick what charities they want within the city of Chicago, because obviously there's a lot of different things you can choose from, but my only worry with that is normally they just allow them to pick whatever charity they wanted. So, like, in this year, for example, they could have donated to they could have donated to like the Mamba Foundation, or like help donate to like his family, the proceeds from the game, or like the Mamba Academy, different things like, or the families of the other, or to donate it to the other families involved, not just the Bryant family. And that would have been cool, but then this year, because they got to do it in the city it's located, you do it in Chicago, so I'm like, is that something you're going to change every year? Is going to be like, I know it's in Indiana soon coming up, like, will you have to pick Indiana-based charities? Just like, I don't like the aspect of forcing the players to pick from a smaller pool of foundations. If there's foundations that are near and dear to their hearts, they should be allowed to pick those and then not just be forced to pick ones in Indiana. Like, obviously, if they want to pick ones in Indiana or Chicago or wherever, by all means. But it's like I said, I just don't like the guys being forced to pick certain charities. So that's the first one. The second one, the second change is the teams will compete to win each of the first 3 quarters, all of which start with the score of 0-0 and last 12 minutes long. So basically, at the end of each quarter, there's like $100,000 on the line. So if whatever team wins that quarter, like I said, whatever team wins that quarter wins the $100,000 for their charity. And then that's 300,000 total. And the 0-0 thing is like weird to me. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but I'm just like, you can see who won the quarter without having to reset the score every time. Like, that's not that hard to do. Anyone who watches the games, they have on the ESPN app, on the NBA app, on very different apps. It's easy to tell who won the quarter. You can just do the math of how many points that they had after the first quarter to the second quarter. I don't think the starting at 0 is a necessary thing, but that's some very minute detail, in my opinion. But I'm just saying you could just have it. You can keep score the way you normally keep score. Because then you're going to have to add it. Because as we'll talk about in a second, they're going to add it back in at the end. So it's like, what's the point of just keep the running tab? It seems unnecessary to me. But whatever. So then speaking of that, The fourth quarter, at the start of the fourth quarter, the game clock will be turned off and a final score target will be set. The final score target will be determined by taking the leading team's total cumulative score through 3 quarters and adding 24, the 24 representing the late Kobe Bryant's uniform number, obviously. Though, I mean, in fairness, he wore 2 numbers. They could have added it together, make it 32. But I think, again, this is a test. So, not everything's going to be right in the test run. So that aspect of it is interesting. Again, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Actually, I kind of hate it a little bit, just because 24 is not that many points. Like, I understand you kind of want guys to play defense, so I get that aspect of it, but, like, 24 is not that many points. In terms of, like, to score in a quarter. Like, good offenses put up 30s and the 40s, so I know it's an untimed quarter, but, like, in theory, the quarter could be over, and, like, if one player gets hot, like, a quarter could be over in, like, 5-6 minutes, and then boom, all right, the game's over. So I think we have to tinker with that a little bit, and I know it's obviously 24 for Kobe, but like I said, they could have upped it to 32 at least, just to get the guys to play a little bit longer, in my opinion. And also, that's just the things, like, there's that, is it always going to be 24? Is it going to be, are they going to change it every year? I don't know, probably going to work through the kinks on that aspect of it. But yeah, also the adding to the total score thing is weird to me, because, like, in the first 3 quarters, you play whoever wins the quarter, wins the money, but then at the end, it doesn't, like, the losing team could outscore the winning team technically in that quarter, but still lose the game because they didn't get to 20 because they were down. Say the West is up 100-90, so the total you need to get to is 194, and the East team could score 30 to the West 24, but then obviously the West got the 24 first, so they had a higher lead. So then they get it first. I mean, that's only, I understand it's throughout the first 3 quarters you're incentivizing guys to play more competitively, play more defense, so the game's not that big of a blowout by the time the fourth quarter hits. But I'm saying if a team's getting blown out, then it's like no team's going to score 40 plus points, in my opinion. It's not impossible, but I would be shocked if a team scored 40 plus points while another team only scored, before another team could score 24. Well, that doesn't seem likely to me. And also, if I understand this correctly, I think the winner, because once the final score is set, the teams will play, like I said, downtime fourth quarter, reach the final score target. And then the community organization selected by the winner of each of the 3 quarters will receive $100,000, a total of $300,000 donated to charity of those 3 quarters. The winner of each of the first 3 quarters, And then the winning team in the NBA All-Star game, the team that reaches the final score first, will earn $200,000 for a designated community organization. So, if I'm understanding this correctly and I'm reading this right, there's a chance that one team could get no money and the other team could just get $500,000. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right. I thought, I could be wrong on this, but I thought at least before, like, the winner obviously got more money, but I thought the loser still got something. It wasn't just like the other charity got shut out. You know what I'm saying? If I'm reading this right, then in theory, the East, or the West for that matter, could just get shut out of money as a whole, and then that organization just gets no money. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, I could be wrong. Maybe that's how they've always done it, but that wouldn't make any sense if that's how they've always done it. I thought they at least give the losing team something. Because I know in most All-Star games they give the losing team at least something if it's for charity. It's for charity. So why would you not want both teams? Why would you not want both organizations to get some money? But yeah, in theory, if the one team doesn't win any quarter and then they obviously aren't able to reach a target score for us, they could just lose 5,000 as nothing. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that's what I'm like, I understand, I get it, trying to get the game more competitive, put more money on the line, all that fun stuff, but I'm just like, it wasn't necessary. We didn't need to change it's not changing the way the game is played, but it kind of is, because then we're not playing the full 12 quarters in the 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. It's weird. And also the Kobe tribute, while I don't hate that aspect of it, because you got to get tribute him some way. As we talked about in the last podcast, you can very easily just name the All-Star Game trophy after him. Wouldn't have been that difficult. Again, they still might do that. We'll see what they do in the game, because I don't imagine that's the only tribute they're going to have. And also, they could have just had the players where one team were 8, one team were 24. I think that's a much more easy and fitting tribute than trying to manufacture new rule games and force him into it. I'm just got interested to see if they had planned this beforehand or they just thought of this week, which I don't think they have, and like what the target score was before then. That's what I would like to know. I know it couldn't have been 24 because that's too little, in my own personal opinion. Like I said, the final score should be at least 30. Because then again, you could potentially be shortchanging the fans. There's a legitimate chance that they don't play what would have been a full 12-minute quarter in the fourth quarter because the one team reaches the target score fast. So I'm just saying, that's just me. That's my own personal gripes with it. But I'm saying there were other ways I think they could have tied the Kobe tribute into this game. And I don't think that was, like I said, I hope they didn't just make that up for the game. I hope this was something that they had planned and they just added the 24 in. But if they just made that up for the sake of this game, I'm like, I don't know about that one. But at least I'll give the NBA credit for trying to change the game in order to make it more competitive. I mean, there's only so many things you can do. Honestly, and I would honestly maybe prefer a king of the court kind of thing, maybe a 2-on-2 tournament, something like that. As opposed to, like I said, if you don't think the game's competitive enough, a 2-on-2, I guarantee you that would be very competitive. And like a tournament style, best of, all that fun stuff. I think, like I said, or the king of the court, I know they do a lot of that. And like when they do like the USA team, when they have like they do like the one-on-ones at the end of the practices, and just have the guys like from different spots to try to, like I said, just try to score on the other guy, and you see some great moves, some great shots being made. I think that could be a cool alternative too if you like I say, if you don't think the All-Star game is good enough where you're going to add that in and just have the All-Star players. You have like front court guys versus front court guys and guards versus guards because try to make it even. I mean, that could be a cool alternative too. Then, like I said, you don't want to make too many drastic changes to the game itself. I appreciate the changes in order for the sake of competitiveness to a degree because, like I said, I need defense in the All-Star game. Like it's not that serious to me. But a lot of other people don't think that. They're like, I can't watch this. They don't play no defense. They just let the guys run up and down the court. I'm like, that's what I'm trying to see. Alley-oops off the backboard. I'm trying to see 360 dunks. I'm trying to see between the legs dunks. I'm trying to see half-court alley-oops, all that fun stuff. I'm not trying to see lockdown defense. That's not why I watched the All-Star game. So, like I said, we'll see. Maybe I'll like the changes more when I see them play out. But just as on paper right now, that's how I'm feeling. Just like, I'm at an right now. Maybe they'll grow on me, maybe they won't. But like I said, I'm just like, this. No one really asked for this specifically. Like, this is not the changes we need. It's like, And I'm just not. I still haven't bought into the target score thing. It just seems weird to me. But maybe you guys disagree. If you do, like I said, feel free to reach out to us on social media. And maybe I'll like it once I see it. But I'll have to wait till the All-Star game for that. So, after this break, we'll talk about some of the other big news that came out of the NBA. Not necessarily today, but last night. There was quite a scuffle that we had there between the Knicks and the Grizzlies. And I'll give you guys my opinions on that, how I feel, the punishments that were weighed down, the comments that were made after, all that fun stuff. We'll talk about that right after this break.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
GSMC Podcast Network. So, I don't imagine you guys were watching Knicks Grizzlies last night, because, I mean, why would you? Knicks stink. The Grizzlies are at least in playoff contention, but, I mean, it's, like I said, they're playing the Knicks. No one really paid attention to that. Unless you're a big Ja Morant fan, which if you are, completely understand. One of the most entertaining players to watch, at least young players to watch in the league right now. So, if that's the reason, cool. But if you didn't watch it, then you missed a little scuffle that happened there at the end. I was going to call it a fight, but, I mean, punches were thrown, but no one really got hit. So, I wouldn't really necessarily call it a fight. But, long story short, what happened was, I guess the Grizzlies must have scored. I mean, they had to score because they were inbounding the ball. So the Grizzlies scored. They're inbounding the ball. They kind of just, like, roll it up to Alfred Payton. Payton was going to do the normal thing where, like, teams, like, let the ball roll so you, like, don't waste clock. But I'm like, you're down, like, big, so, like, who cares? But, yes, they do that. And then I guess Jay Crowder hadn't fully gone down the court yet. So he comes in, steals the ball, dribbles into the corner. Looks like he's probably just going to wait to pass it out. He doesn't. He puts up a 3, which, with, like, 18 seconds left on the shot clock, which, I mean, uncalled for. But then, what happened after that was also uncalled for, and Alfred Payton shoves him in the chest as he's shooting the 3, which is very dangerous. The guy's not on the ground. I mean, he could get hurt that way. Then he gets up. Jay Crowder is rightfully mad. They exchange some words. They kind of push and try to shove. They try to, not like I said, like punch is not really the right word for what was thrown because they were just like nothing really went near the face. It was more chest level, from my perspective. But yeah, there's a big scuttlebug or whatever that I forget what that word is, but there's a little scuffle on the court. Marcus Morris comes in doing his normal tough guy thing, pushes Ja Morant over for no apparent reason. He wasn't even involved in the thing. Marcus Morris just needs to make sure that everyone knows he's the toughest guy on the court at all times, which debatable. But I mean, I'm not going to test him, so we don't got to worry about that. But yeah, so he comes in, nothing really comes of it. Guys get ejected, all that fun stuff. So. We'll talk about the comments and my opinions on that in a second in terms of what happened. But after the game, today, it being Thursday, they threw out 1-game suspensions for Alfred Payton, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Marko Guduric. I'm not even sure who this is. Plays on the Grizzlies. News to me. But yeah, so those 3 got suspended for a game. Marcus Morris got hit with a hefty fine, $35,000. Wow. And Jay Crowder also got a $25,000 fine. So, you got the end of that. And my opinions of this here, so this is funny that this is, I didn't really touch on the Kansas, I think it was Kansas State. It happened like a little while ago. I didn't really touch on that fight too much. But it's like almost the complete opposite. So it's like, in that game, the losing team was trying too hard. And rightfully so, I'm like, if I'm dribbling out the clock, don't steal the ball and try to dunk it. And if you're going to try to lay it up or dunk it, don't come in weak, because then your stuff is going to get blocked. And then don't get mad after you get blocked, because you shouldn't have gone up for that anyway. So that was my opinions on that. Obviously, the guy you can't come in with the chair. That was wild. Don't do all that. And obviously, he didn't use it on anybody. Thank goodness. That would have been a disaster. But just even picking it up, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But yeah, I was against the Kansas State in that scenario, because I'm just like, dude, if you're losing by that much, just let the team dribble the clock. It's not like they were trying to score on you and you stole it. All right, that's one thing. But if they're not trying to score on you and you steal it, I'm just like, all right, you're doing too much, dude. But yeah, so that's how I felt in that. And this was the inverse in terms of the winning team was doing too much here. And I'm just like, Jay Crowder, if they're gonna throw the ball at you and you're just like, all right, I might as well steal this. I understand. Did you have to steal it? Not at all. But my biggest thing is, like, just don't shoot the 3. Don't shoot the 3 with 18 seconds on the shot clock. Like, come on. My guy. That's where I'm like, all right, it's absurd. It'd be one thing if you were like, oh, trying to pass it out, you couldn't pass it out, and then you're just like, all right, shoot, let me put it. Like, no, you dribbled out to the corner, made like conscious decision, like, all right, I'm gonna put up this 3 because I'm trying to get my stats up. You feel me? And then that's where Alfred Payton crossed the line. Like, I'm like, you can't just shove a dude in the chest, though. I believe it was Steven Jackson said that if that were him, he would have punched him in the face. So, better shove him in the chest and punch him in the face on the 3. But I'm saying you could just, like, say something to get in his face afterwards, like, hey, dude, like, that was uncalled for, like, what was that, blah, blah, blah. But don't just, like, shove him Like, shove him after he's shot the ball and going up the court. Don't shove him, like, as he's in midair. Like, that's dangerous. Like, don't do that. And like I said, Morris was just dumb because I'm just like, dude, you're just trying to make a situation worse that you weren't even involved in. Like, obviously, you were involved in because it's your team, but it's like, you, like, don't, like, you're pushing John Morant for what? It wasn't even him. Like, if you're going to push Jay Crowder, at least I'd get it. Like, you're just pushing the guy just to push him. I'm just like, for what? Like, what did John Morant do to you other than put the beats on you and put them paws on you, if you will? Hands. That's, if you don't know what paws are, that's hands. But yeah, it's just like, come on. There's no need for, honestly, there's no need for anything. Like, all of it was stupid. The game was about to be over. It was like 50 seconds left or something like that. Like, just steal, if you want to steal the ball, just don't shoot the three. Just pass the ball out. Let them win the clock. At least the guy's still going to be mad at you, but at least they won't be mad because you're also a terrible person and annoying. Then don't shove the guy in the chest. That's stupid and uncalled for. And also just don't push people for any reason. Like, again, I wouldn't fight the Morris twins. However, they're always going over the top. Wasn't it? Didn't Morris like throw the? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was this Morris, the one on the Knicks, that threw the ball off the guy's head in the Wizards game in preseason. Like, I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, well, like, why do you just need to always assert your toughness? Now, I'm pretty sure the Morrisons also almost fought the entire Kansas football team in college, so they just always want to fight. So, I mean, that's their thing. I get it, but I'm just saying, like, there's certain times where he's over the top. And also, speaking of over the top, he went over the top in his post-game comments where he said that Jay Crowder was displaying feminine-like tendencies in that game. And I'm just like, all right, come on, dude. Like, at no point is that ever okay to say. But, like, yeah, I mean, there's really no but. There's no point. I was gonna say, like, my main point was just gonna be, it's like now, especially with like social media and like you're being recorded. It's not like they're gonna find out in the moment that you said that. Like, that makes it 10 times worse. Like, you knew exactly the moment you said that you were going, like, literally you're speaking to, I imagine, I'm not sure exactly who the Knicks and Grizzlies beat reporters and silent reporters and TV reporters are, but there's women. I know the one. Who's the one? There's one lady that works for MSG. It's like Rebecca something. I don't remember her name, but I know MSG and like she covers the Knicks. Is it Rebecca Harlow? That sounds right in my head. I don't know if that's it. I'm gonna double check for you guys, but regardless, yeah, Rebecca Harlow. Yeah, she does some NBA TV stuff, some MSG stuff. So yeah, so like there's a chance she's in the media scrum after the game. Like, so you're telling her that like you're belittling women because apparently it's not like, it's just like, it was like a weird thing to say. Then he said it was like in the heat of the moment. I'm like, dude, you're changed. It's not you. It's not someone interviewed you post game. Like, they interviewed you post game, but it wasn't immediately after the game. Like, you showered, you changed clothes, you had time to sit and think about it, and then that's the first thing that you came up with to say about Jay Crowder. Now, Jay Crowder, you could call Jay Crowder any sorts of names, any sort of curse words, blah, blah, blah. But, like, to call him a woman, I was like, I mean, come on, Morris, what were you thinking? And then, rightfully, he got the backlash, because that's what he deserved. And I think it was, I know Liz Cambage, WNBA star, great basketball player. Should definitely check her out. If you don't already watch the WNBA, she's amazing. Yeah, she was like, I think she was like female tendencies, like win games. It's also like you're belittling women, but also you're saying that you're belittling women, and you were losing by a lot. So it's just like, is that? So I was like, if you're saying if he's playing like a woman, then does that mean women would beat you? I was like, I don't know what he was going for there. He said women tendencies win games, and she was like going back. She had a couple tweets about him, and it was all the slander he got was very deserved. Because, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what is that? I'm just like, what did you mean by that? In terms of, because I'm like, there's a lot of players that flop. there's a lot of players that do things that are inappropriate on the court. Something is everybody behaving like a woman, and also like flopping's not a woman's thing. That's a very male thing. You watch any sort of sport, men flop a lot, especially in like whether it's soccer or football, whatever if you're non-American. And And especially in basketball, I mean, there's guys flopping left, right. Did you see Rudy Gobert the other day? You would have thought Eric Gordon shot him the way he fell to the ground after he bumped into him. Like I'm saying, like, yeah, men display a lot of questionable tendencies on the floor, especially on the court during a basketball game that had nothing to do with women at all. So I was like, I didn't know where he was going with that comment. And also, like, women, like, biologically have to deal with things that are tougher than what men have to deal with, whether it's, like, pregnancy or, like, the menstrual cycles, all that stuff. Like, obviously you guys know all the biology and all that stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that women have to deal with that are much tougher than a lot of things men have to deal with. So, I mean, you could say that the toughness of a woman may very well be beneficial for a man in a sport like that. So yeah, it was just every aspect of that scuffle was bad. The way it started was bad, what happened in the middle was bad, what happened in the end was bad, the comments after were bad, everything was bad. People got fined a lot of money. I imagine the reason why Morris's fine was so hefty was partly because of those comments, because they were so stupid. But yeah, it was just a mess. I mean, it made a Knicks Grizzlies game worth talking about to some degree, but that's not, you don't want to be talking about it because of fights and because of sexist comments. That's not normally why you want to be talking about basketball games. You want to be talking about basketball games because of nice plays, nice dunks, nice passes, things of that nature, highlights, stuff like that. Also, the sell the team chants were kind of funny too, because Knicks fans hate for Dolan is deserved, but also he's not going anywhere. I'm sorry. Unless they find, they would need to find something on in order to force him to sell the team, because he's not just going to sell it on his own. The team makes too much money. So, if you want him to sell the team, don't show up to the games. That'd be my advice to Knicks fans. You show up to the games and chanting sell the team, not going to help. And also, I think he got a guy kicked out, or he tried to get a guy kicked out because, like, he was shouting it close to him, and as if he was the only guy to say it. It was funny. Dolan always, like Dolan knows people hates him, but then he'll also just, like, get them banned from the arena if you hate on him. And I'm just like, dude, you could just be, like, a better owner. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to go too off on a tangent. So, like I said, that Grizzlies-Knicks thing was a mess yesterday. Like I said, everyone involved was foolish in different ways. And hopefully we can allow our athletes to be smarter and make better comments and not belittle women after they lose by 18 points in a basketball game. Because you could have just played harder and played better, and none of this would have happened. But nope, it's the Knicks, so of course that didn't happen. So after this last break, we're going to switch gears to baseball, and there is a star player that could potentially be on the move to a big market team. And I'm going to tell you who that is, where he could be headed, why I think it's happening, why I think it's stupid. But like all that stuff, we'll get to it right after this break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Hadn't heard the rumors, you maybe weren't paying attention because other things were on your mind in terms of baseball. The player that could be on the move is none other than Mookie Betts of the Boston Red Sox. According to The Athletic, according to Buster Olney of ESPN, the Boston Red Sox are deep into trade talks with the Los Angeles Dodgers about all-star right fielder Mookie Betts, according to sources. The two sides have talked about possible trade combinations that involve that also do involve the veteran left-hander David Price, who I believe has 3 more years left on his deal, getting paid a lot of money to be mediocre. Great life. Would love it. Is that like the quick aside, but like backup quarterbacks, like average pitchers, underachieving NBA stars, stuff like that. We're just getting paid a lot of money to not be that good. Seems like the life. I'm not sure how I clearly did not work enough on my curveball and my changeup when I was a kid. Because, I mean, I think everyone would rather be overpaid than underpaid. And David Price is currently overpaid. And, hey, look, as long as the check still clears, I don't think he's that mad about it. But, yeah, so from a Red Sox perspective, I feel like they only said that they see the benefit of opening spring training without the question of Betts' future hanging over the team, which is understandable. Betts is going to be, who's 27, he's going to be eligible for free agency after the season, and they tried to sign to a long-term deal. The money wasn't right, and I mean, I completely understand. You got to get your money, especially when you hit free agency for the first time. Once you're done with arbitration, you have to go through all those service time foolishness to get to be a free agent in baseball. So once you get there, you want to make sure the money's right. You've seen some of the big deals guys have signed. You're not gonna, and especially for a guy like Mookie Betts, who's a perennial All-Star every year, who's been great for not only, I mean, not just he's been great in general, but obviously he's been great for the, I almost did the Astros, for the Red Sox as well. So I can understand why he's like, no, I'm not just going to sign any deal. Like, all right. So last season, he hit .295, which is a little bit of a dip. But he hit .295, 29 home runs, 80 RBIs. The year before, he hit .346, excuse me. Let me make sure I get it right. Over 180 hits, 32 home runs, 80 RBIs, helped them win the World Series, though. I mean, they may have been cheating involved. We'll see what comes from that. He was a 300 hitter over the course of his career. It's just like he's been a good player, so it's like, why would you want to trade him? I don't really know, other than like the money. Apparently, like I said, they tried to sign him with no success. They think it's inevitable he's going to get traded at some point this year, whether it's before the trade deadline or whether it's before the season starts. The Dodgers have some good young pieces, whether it's outfielder Alex Verdugo, who was up with them last year, and gave them some good success. Pitcher Dustin May, some other guys in their farm system, because LA has a very good and deep farm system, so I imagine they're going to get some good pieces out of a trade. But if it's just all just money-wise, then this is really interesting. Because I'm like, in theory, Mookie Betts should be a part of your future. Like I say, he's only 27, going to be turning 28. Baseball players can play forever. Because especially, well, there's going to be DH potentially coming to both of these. He's been AOs at DH, so even if he's not as good of a fielder, you can still DH him. He's a good hitter, good at the top of the lineup, hits for power, hits for average. So it's like, why get rid of him? But then also it's like, why not pay him what he wants? Like, honestly, if you want to get rid of him, if you don't want to pay him, all right, it's better to get nothing from him than to just let him walk. But also, like, why are you not paying him? Because as you see, they had no issue paying David Price, who's set to make $96 million over the next 3 years, and is 34, and it wasn't that great last year, though he did help them win a title the year before, but he's not that great last year. And Betts is already making $27 million this year after agreeing to a record deal for arbitration caliber player. So it's like, you're already paying him a lot this year. So what's the whole? I mean, obviously, I'm not in the negotiation table. I'm not at the negotiation table. I don't know what the situation has been with both sides, but just like, it doesn't. I can't wrap my head around why the Red Sox would just be like, here, take our best player. We don't want him. We're just going to rebuild now because we got our World Series, so who cares what happens? And I'm just like, you can... I get it from that perspective in terms of you don't want to pay a lot of money or be paying a lot of money for a team that could potentially be rebuilding. But I mean, look at the Nationals. They thought they were going to be rebuilding. They were terrible for the first month and a half of the season. Things clicked, bada bing, bada boom. And now they're back. Now, did they let Anthony Rendon walk? Yes. Was that foolish? Potentially, but they have to pay Strasburg, so you can pay everybody. You only have so much money. So I understand that perspective, but it's like, I guess they're just like, they just think they can't afford it. I mean, it's not like the Red Sox don't have the capability to pay for it. Like, they have more than enough money. They're not a small market team. No, honestly, that's why that's the thing about the Dodgers. Like, the Dodgers don't even need Mookie Betts like that, for real. Like, they made the playoffs last year. They won like over 100 games last year. Without him, they have Cody Bellinger, they had Jock Peterson, they had Verdugo. They had good guys on their roster already in terms of in their outfield. So it's like, did they need a Mookie Betts? No, but when one of the best players in the game is available, you can't not try to get him. Like, it'd be foolish for the Dodgers not at least to try, because again, they haven't been able to get over that hump in order to win the World Series. They've gotten there, obviously, where they cheated due to some scandalous activity. At least in 2017 they were. We don't know about 2018 yet, though it's believed so. I mean, like I said, they had Bellinger, they had Peterson, they had AJ Pollock, Chris Taylor, Verdugo. So they had guys that are capable outfielders without Mookie Betts. Obviously, the team is clearly Muncy, who played some outfield too. So they had guys that are capable without Mookie Betts. And obviously, you add Mookie Betts to that lineup, and then I guess I was going to say goes from one of the best lineups. Like, it becomes one of the best lineups in the league, but it already was last year. So it stays at one of the best lineups. And now you add another guy at the top of that order who can hit for power and for hit for average. I think Jock Peterson was a leadoff hitter for a time last year, and he only hit like 250. And yeah, he would have had the second highest average of like the main position players. Mookie Betts would have, only behind Cody Bellinger, who had a MVP caliber season. So did he win MVP? He might have won MVP. Hold on. How am I gonna know this? I don't know how I'm gonna know this. All right. Regardless, like I said, from a Dodgers perspective, I get it. I get why they would want it. I just don't understand why. Like I said, not Cody Bellinger. Mookie Betts is a player you build your team around. Oh, you did win the MVP. Okay, I know it wasn't bugging. Cody Bellinger, that is. But yeah, Mookie Betts is a guy you have as an asset on your team, help build the team around. It's not a guy you like, hey, he's going to be a free agent, let's trade him because we don't want to pay our good players. That seems like a weird philosophy to have as a franchise, in my opinion. Guys get good, guys help you win titles, and now they're up for free agency, and it's like, about that. Yeah, like, go get that money somewhere else. It's not, you can't do that here. Like, we don't want you to, like, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay, basically, is what they're telling. Like, you don't, like, I'm not telling you to retire or telling you to quit baseball, but like, you just can't play here because we're not going to pay you, so they'll trade you. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Because, I mean, if you bring them to the Dodgers, you give a stacked team and make them even more stacked. And yeah, maybe we'll see if that's enough to put them over the hump finally. Obviously, like I said, they've ran into some teams that may or may not have been cheating. We'll see what happens with the Red Sox. Also, that's a good point. How weird would that locker room dynamic be if the Red Sox did cheat and he was, I mean, they try not to name players in the Astros thing, but I think they're going to have to start naming players now because, like, you can't not do something. So it'll be interesting to see if he was one of the players named to have been positively affected by whatever cheating they may or may not have been doing. Because, like I said, they're innocent until proven guilty, so we'll see. But I'm just saying, if Alex Cora was a main part of the Astros thing and then he goes to the Red Sox and they win the World Series, looks a little fishy. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that dynamic would go because the Dodgers have been very outspoken about the Astros, and many players around the league have been outspoken about the Astros cheating. And if it comes out the Red Sox did too, now you add a player from that team, and that'd be an interesting dynamic into that locker room they hadn't really thought about onto that team. Because, like I said, a lot of championship success comes down to chemistry, and then that'd be a weird mix with that team. But like I said, we'll see how that goes. I don't understand it from the Red Sox perspective, but the Dodgers need to win a World Series, or they're going to go down. I mean, they haven't won since the 80s, I think. They've already been a very big disappointment in terms of postseason success, so hopefully this is them going even more all in than they already were going for it. They already traded for Machado like 2 years ago. So you see they're willing to make trades in order to try to get themselves over the hump. So maybe this will be the one that actually does it. Because they tried things, it hasn't worked out yet, so maybe this will be the one that actually does it. So we'll see what happens with that. So that'll do it here from me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, if you haven't already, which you should, but if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop stuff. If you could, please give us a nice 5-star rating and write us a good review. It would be very appreciated. Help us see what you guys like, see what you guys don't like, all that great stuff. If you're on social media, we're on social media, so we can talk, we can chat there, we can discuss things. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can find us there. We can talk about all-star snubs. We can talk about Mookie Betts being traded. We can talk about your Super Bowl predictions. See you guys think. Like I said, head says Niners, heart says Chiefs. I'm going with my head for this one, but I'm rooting for the Chiefs. It's a weird dynamic. But yeah, so we can discuss that. We can discuss anything. So, that has been my time here today. As always, I have been Chris Blades. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.